Defending the truth from what the mainstream media won't tell you, you're listening to the Hagman and Hagman Report, streaming live on the Global Star Radio Network. Stand by. Doug and Joe will be right back.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the Hagman and Hagman Report. We're coming to you live from our radio and television studios in Northwest Pennsylvania. We're going to get right to it, folks. In case you saw over the weekend or didn't see over the weekend, WND, WorldNet Daily, WND.com. Bar manager, cops never talked with staff about night Seth Rich was murdered. Liz Crokin is coming up. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much for your belief and your trust in us. We've got so much to get into. This is just going to be an information-packed show. I would urge you to tell your friends and family about this program, about this particular show as well. On Twitter, at HagmanPI, that's me. On Twitter, at Hagman Report, that's the show. Facebook, all social networking, Hagman Report or Doug Hagman. And plug in because we are operating under a new mandate. We are moving forward. We are exposing the dark and evil deeds of things. I want to say this as well, tied closely with the topic on the first half hour tonight and the first segment or two tonight, depending if I can twist Liz Crokin's arm. Of course, about Seth Rich and about the larger issue of treason in this country, the issue of hacks versus leaks, tied closely to that. Thursday, I'm going to bring George Webb on, the investigative journalist out there in the field, and getting more in depth as well. But right now, Liz Crokin, in a hot commodity with respect to the information about the murder of Seth Rich. I was on with Dave Hodges last night talking about that as well, laying out just the foundational aspects of it, but there's more, obviously more to it and more in depth. So catch up if you can, and I do hope you will catch up. We're going to bring Liz Crokin on. Before I do, Joe, I'm going to kick it over to you, and let's jump
right into it. We got a great show tonight. We have Liz Crokin. In this hour, we have Diamond and Silk in the next hour, and then Steve Quayle and Dr. Michael Lake will be with us from 8:30 to 10. So with that, let's bring Liz Crokin on.
Hi,
Liz,
guys.
it's great to have you back.
We can see you. I can see you. This is great. You're great. Good to see you, Liz.
Can you see my head's about to explode? There is so much that's gone down about the Seth Rich murder investigation since we last talked. It's crazy.
You know, there is. And this is, this is for all the marvels, I believe, exposing who and what is behind this. Will reveal. We'll rip apart the meme about the Russian hacking. We'll indict, of course, that's a figure of speech, indict many in the deep state. So, Liz, let's great job on the article, by the way. Super job.
Thank you.
Like it.
Trust me, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, yeah. Well, you were on Friday. You gave us a teaser. Take it away.
Well, so I was on Friday. We talked about the Seth Rich investigation. Yesterday, my story broke with WorldNet Daily, and there's two important points I want to highlight from that article. So the PI that the family hired, that Seth Rich's family hired to investigate this case, Rod Wheeler, this story blew wide open again when he went on TV and he said that he had reason to believe that Seth Rich was the leaker to WikiLeaks, right? He also said that he used to be a DC police detective, as you guys know, and he said that the people that he talked to in the department said that they were told to stand down on this case, right? So I talked to a manager at Lou City Bar, which is where Seth was. That was the last known place he was before he was murdered. And I was told that police never investigated the bar. And when I say that, they never went in there and asked one employee one question. They have video surveillance there. They never asked for the video footage of Seth. They never asked for a receipt. Nothing. The only time any staff members talked to police was during a memorial in a friendly manner. It wasn't part of a police investigation. Now, I started my journalism career as a police reporter. And when someone's murdered, it's murder investigation 101. Like, you start at the last place the person was seen at to investigate the crime. And you guys, as investigators yourself and with your background and your ties, like, you guys know that if someone's murdered, that's the first place you go to ask questions. So the fact that no police went there to ask any questions, they didn't ask for the tape, they didn't ask for Seth's receipt, nothing proves that what Wheeler said, what the private investigator said, was accurate. The police stood down because they did not investigate this case. They did not go to the bar where he was last seen.
Right. And Liz and folks, you walk in the victim's shoes. That as a police officer, as an investigator or a homicide detective, that's what you do. You recreate the last moments of their lives, hours, up to 48, 72 hours. I mean, that 101. Now, the bar manager, bar owner, it was a Joe Capone?
It was.
Okay.
So, so then I asked Joe, I'm like, okay, so they didn't ask any questions. They didn't ask, for a receipt, nothing. And I said, well, what about the video footage? And he's like, oh, no, no one asked for that. And I'm like, well, do you still have it? And he said, well, probably not, because our footage tapes over every 30 days. So it obviously would have taped over by now. But according to him, the cops never asked to look at the tape. Seth could have been with his murderers. It's just complete insanity. And the fact that, just as a manager at a restaurant, these people were friends with Seth just out of curiosity. I don't think it's strange that no one was like, maybe we should look at this tape and see if anything strange happened that we didn't notice, or if there was, any shady people lurking around him, or anyone was hovering over his drink. Maybe he could have been roofied. Like, you never know. The whole thing is just crazy.
Now, when you had the opportunity to speak with Joe Capone, and I know that names were not put in the article, but it's open source information at this point.
Yeah.
When you had the opportunity to interview him, did he say anything about if Seth Rich was with anyone, or what his state of sobriety might have been during this time?
So, Joe told me he was out of town, and he told me that from what he heard, there was nothing out of the ordinary. He didn't see, because I read that there were bar fights that night, and he said that he didn't hear about that, and he said he didn't believe that Seth was involved in any bar fights. But I will say that he's put out conflicting reports out there. There's some statements that he's made that seem to contradict other statements he's made, and there was one statement that was reported that said that he said he was in town and offered him a ride home, and he told me he wasn't in town. So, there's this whole thing is just a mess, and there's a lot of contradicting information, and I don't want to take your viewers too far down the rabbit hole, but there are a lot of people that find it strange that Joe was at the White House a few days before murdered. Okay. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because when I talked to Joe on the phone, I did not know that he was spotted at the White House a few days before. And Joe initially was like, I shouldn't be, really talking, I should run things by the family before I talk. But then he started talking. So I was like, all right, well, he's talking. So I guess he's okay with it.
Let him talk. That's right.
Yeah. But he was answering my questions. I said, okay, well, what about this? What about that? And he would just answer my questions. And then it was weird because just out of the blue, he's like, oh, yeah. And, I was at the White House and everyone's asking about the White House, but I was just there for a tour, And I'm like, what? Because I hadn't read yet that he was at the White House a few days before Seth was murdered. So I had no idea what he was talking about. And then when we got off the phone, I later read that there was reports that he was in the White House and allegedly in a private room. And as we know, the White House at that point in time was closed down to public tours.
Correct. Okay? And he, if I'm not mistaken, Liz, and I think you might have found this out, and Liz Crokin is our guest, folks. He posted the manager of Lou's City Bar, Joe Capone, 4 days previous to the murder, as Liz is telling everyone, did go to the White House, was part of a 4-member tour. However, on his Facebook page, he did post a photograph, him and in the company of a couple of other people, in a private room in the East Wing of the White House. And in fact, the photograph looked out over the South Lawn. So, just saying.
Yeah. The East Wing is where the president has, different ceremonial events and not bill signing events, but I interned in the White House, so I've been in the East Room before. I just thought it was a little strange that he insisted on bringing this up. I didn't even know about the White House or that he was at the White House. But okay, so I got some breaking news for you guys. So we have a story that's not even up yet, but we have a new story that we're going to break on WND really soon. And so when the private investigator that was hired by the family, when he started working on this case, he started calling his friends in the police department to try to figure out what was going on, right? So listen to this. Apparently, when he was making calls investigating the case, a high-ranking member of the DNC got very upset about this and called not only the police to complain about this private investigator snooping about the Seth Rich case, she also called Seth Rich's family and complained. Well, guess who that high-ranking DNC official was? It was none other than Donna Brazile. Now, if you remember, Donna Brazile lost her job at CNN for abusing her position at CNN to leak debate questions to Hillary Clinton. So if anyone has an axe to grind with a potential leaker to WikiLeaks, it would be her.
Okay, the breaking news, you'll have to repeat that for me again, because I think I might have had a minor cerebral episode when you said that.
You're cracking me up.
Well, wait
I know,
a second.
my head is spinning all day. The story is just a beast.
Okay. Huh?
So yeah, so Donna Brazile, and this is according to Rod Wheeler.
Right.
He told one of our reporters, and he's really fed up right now. I mean, this guy, I've talked to him. He was trying to do good by this family. He genuinely wanted to find out who murdered this nice young man. All right, that he's not political. He didn't have an agenda. He just wanted to get down to the bottom of the story. And, he told me he was very close to solving this murder. He believed he was very close to solving this murder before he was thrown off the case by the quote-unquote family under the direction of their spokesperson who works for the DNC. I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy web. But yes, so when he started investigating this case, Donna Brazile found out that, God forbid, a family hired a PI to find out what the heck happened to their murdered son. And she had a problem with that. Why would she have a problem with that? Why wouldn't she want this family to find out who murdered their son? Why would she have a problem with that?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. And Liz, what struck me as kind of telling was Assange, and a GOP, someone from the GOP, which is interesting by itself, and the DC Police Department all, put up 150 or 130, whatever right. It's up to, 130,000, 150 grand in reward money, but the DNC, nothing, crickets.
No. Isn't that very telling?
Absolutely.
So, and then here's another interesting piece of information. I mean, there's so much going on. I have some notes here. So the crisis manager, the spokesperson for the family, is not really a spokesperson, okay? He's a crisis consultant. We talked about this on the last show. So he was quoted telling one of our reporters who was asking about this whole situation, he said to her, anyone that believes that Seth Rich may have leaked DNC emails, quote, deserves a place in hell.
Yep.
Okay. We're supposed to be a crisis manager and you're telling people to go to hell? Like, I mean, this is the biggest train wreck ever. And, you know, I mean, I said on Friday, I'm telling you, this Seth Rich story is the domino piece that's going to make all of them fall down. The whole house is about to fall. Because if indeed, like you said earlier, if indeed Seth Rich was indeed the leaker, that means it wasn't Russia. So their lie about Russia hacking, you know, and colluding against Hillary during this election was a complete lie. So that ruins that narrative. It proves that the DNC has assassins. It proves that the DC police department's corrupt. It also proves that politicians that are closely tied to the DC police department are corrupt. And it also proves that a huge chunk of the mainstream media is covering up for this. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're covering up for this murder, you're complicit in it.
I agree.
You guys, I'm just.
You know, you're on a great path of investigation, and folks, Liz Crokin, investigative journalist, investigative reporter, latest piece out. In fact, we linked to it, WND.com, where she verified that the police never really did any type of investigation at the bar, at Luz City Bar, at all. So, and now, Liz, what about Rod Wheeler? What's your take on Rod Wheeler? If you have one.
Well, and here's another bit of information for you. Rod's really upset because he did say that the local Fox network misconstrued what he said, and now he's thinking about taking legal action. I talked to him. I genuinely feel really bad for the guy. I mean, when I talked to him, he sounded broken. He just said to me, he's like, you know what? I wish I never got involved with this. He's like, this is a nightmare. You know, he's like, I just was trying to do a good thing. I didn't know this was so political. I don't have an agenda. He's trying to help out a grieving freaking family.
Yep.
And now he's being viciously attacked. You know, it's just, I feel bad for the guy. I genuinely feel bad for the guy. And it's just, the whole thing's such a mess, you know, and it's very obvious to me that this family, you know, the DNC and certain outlets are lying about this, said that the family didn't want anyone to investigate this any further. Well, that's a lie. They made a video a few months ago. They set up a whole GoFundMe account to raise money so they could investigate it on their own. That is a huge lie. Yep. And what grieving family would tell their private investigator who's close to finding the murderer to stop investigating the case? I mean, it just makes no sense. And if Seth indeed was the leaker, why would they hire the only group with a motive to kill him to be their spokesperson? Okay? I mean, you guys know how these people operate. You know how the deep state operates. You know how the Clinton mafia operates. These people, they use fear. They use intimidation. I mean, they will hurt you. They will hurt your family. They will hurt your pets. They'll slash your tires. They will do horrible things to you. And I believe that this family is very fearful and is.
Yeah. And now, how did they get, Liz, this family get Brad Bauman, who is the PR crisis consultant for the Pastorum Group, which is really the DNC or DNC organ type thing. Baumann, by the way, and perhaps you can verify this or confirm it, or if you know, it's my understanding that Brad Baumann, the spokesperson for the Rich family, was also employed, or was a shared employee for the House Democrats from 2009 to 2013. So the ties here for the family spokesman, to the DNC, just absolutely incredible. What was my question? I lost my question, lost my train. But anyway, how did that happen?
What I say is that, and I want to cover this in future stories because it's very obvious to me there's a cover up, and there are so many ties between, this motley crew. John Podesta, Robbie Mook, all these DNC operatives, these Clinton operatives. There are so many ties between them and the DC police chief, the commissioner, the mayor, and the people that are, freaking out the most about this story, are the ones that are linked to it. Like John Podesta came out today, just frantically trashing Trump. And it's like they're acting like rabid animals that are cornered. I mean, you got the spokesperson telling people to go to hell. You're supposed to be a crisis consultant, and that's how you deal with a crisis. These people are losing their minds. They're losing, and what's unbelievable to me, and it's so frustrating to me as being someone that was part of the mainstream media for so long, is that there are so many reporters that are flat out lying about it. Okay. There are so many reporters that are now they're starting to attack me. Of course, I was expecting that, which is fine. I don't care. But what's so frustrating to me is that there's so many people in the media, okay, that are flat out lying about it. They're calling it a conspiracy theory. There are some outlets that I actually thought were legit and straight up, that were respectable, that actually cared about the truth. And it's just so frustrating. But
to watch, Liz, to watch what you went through is it's hard to watch. And folks, Liz has been on the receiving end of some pretty nasty, trashy stuff on Twitter, on social networking, and it's so the flack you're catching means you're over the target. So thank you.
Right, and this is what I wanted to say. Okay, the Clintons have been using as a defense the whole conspiracy theory tactic for at least 20 years now, maybe 30. Okay. Whenever someone uncovers some scandal they're involved in, Hillary Clinton gets in front of a camera and says, "Oh, it's a vast right-wing conspiracy." She's been saying it since Monica Lewinsky. So what was that, 20 years ago? Now that tactic worked. It used to work. And the DNC and the Clintons have used that for a very long time period, but it's not working anymore. Okay. Now, if you just did 5 minutes of research on this murder, you will see that they're trying to say that it was a robbery. And within 5 minutes, you'll find out that nothing's robbed. You have to be absolutely brain dead to believe it's a robbery when nothing was stolen. So my point is that we've talked about Pedogate before. And Pedogate is something it's really horrendous. It's really dark. And it's really hard for a normal person with a soul to comprehend that people could be doing these horrible things to children. So it's easier for people to cast this aside as a conspiracy theory. What's not hard to comprehend is that people murder, and people murder over money and power. Okay? That's not hard to comprehend. So this whole wag the dog, oh, let's just call all these people conspiracy theorists and call this a conspiracy theory, when it's so freaking obvious that Seth was not robbed, and that he has clear ties to WikiLeaks and most likely was the leaker. That's not going to work anymore. The jig's up. You can't, and all these stories are coming out saying, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. It's been debunked. We saw the same thing with Pedogate, but no one debunks it. If you want to debunk a story, a conspiracy theory, you have to prove evidence that X, Y, and Z isn't true. And no one does that.
That's right.
So this isn't the conspiracy theory defense. I'm sorry. It's not going to fly anymore. The story is turning into a beast. Sean Hannity is on it now, thank God. Rush Limbaugh talked about it today.
Yes, he did.
It's starting to go mainstream, and there are just too many worms out of the can, and they can't put them all back.
So and thanks to you. I mean, thanks in part to you. You're part of this, exposing this. And you know, Liz, the connection to Pedogate, and the organ trafficking, that there's that too, the rat lines and such. You're bringing it home, and that's why you're so radioactive in the media. I believe that.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I try. It's just really disheartening for me to see so many quote unquote journalists out there lie. I mean, it makes me sick. I started at the Chicago Tribune as a city news reporter, and I worked with some amazing journalists who were all about getting the story. They were all about accuracy. They cared about investigative journalism. And just to see these, so-called journalists just blatantly lie. And everyone in the mainstream media seems to be compromised. I've never seen it this bad in my life, ever. And it's frightening.
Well, to the tenacious, uncompromising Liz Crokin. Liz, should we watch WND for future articles, or?
Yes, the Donna Brazile one should be up in the next few hours, and I'll be working on this all week. So
perfect, and you'll keep us posted, right? You'll come back and join us. And
thank you so much for having me back on, you guys, and so much for covering this story. It's so important.
Well, thanks for being there, and thanks for your guts and for your approach to this. We really appreciate it, and just stay safe out there, okay?
I will. I got my guard dog.
There you go. Okay. Thank you, kiddo. Liz Crokin.
Bye, guys. Have fun.
Thanks.
Have a good night, Liz.
Yeah, she's great. I'm going to tell you, she really is a good investigative journalist, and she's on the story, and she's right. There's no one covering this, and from the angles that she's covering it, it's amazing what she's done over the weekend. When we come back, we're going to be telling you about the terror attack that just took place.
Alleged terror attack. Yeah, Manchester, UK, there's 23 confirmed dead. They say more than 10 are reportedly under 18, 60 plus wounded at a concert in the UK. When we come back, we will touch on this. There are video of the aftermath and some photos floating around on Twitter and other sites. Drudge just put it up on the front of their page. This has been something that's been going on for over an hour now. But when we come back, we will talk about this.
Diamond and Silk at the top of the hour. I didn't mean over talking. And then Dr. Michael Lake and Steve Quayle.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.